Okay. Hi, welcome everyone to the EcoLabs webinar series. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. So thank you so much for joining us for the EcoLabs webinar series. My name is Ryan Jin, and I'm leading the Smart Cities and Future Mobility effort at EcoLabs, Center of Innovation for Energy, or EcoLabs for short. I'll be hosting today's session. EcoLabs is jointly established by Nanyang Technological University, Enterprise Singapore, and Sustainable Energy Association Singapore, SEAS. We aim to build and accelerate deep tech energy innovation capability in Singapore to support the nation energy transition. These joint initiatives aims to help Singapore-based energy startups and SME to commercialize and scale their innovation effort by providing them with the following: translational research, living testbed, innovations programs, funding partners, and community platform. We organized the EcoLabs webinar series to provide an additional engagement and interactions with our partners, where we invite industry experts to offer their insight on respective topics. This webinar series comprises of 5 themes: Startup Series, Insight Series, Corporate Series, Investor Series, and EcoLabs Series, each focusing on the different aspects of the innovation ecosystem. Today's session is part of EcoLabs Insight webinar series to provide industrial insight to understand and navigate the innovation journey in the energy and mobility sector. You will also learn about the different aspects of the startup ecosystem, market analysis, and what to look out for, and where are the different opportunities. Today's webinar is also part of a partnership between EcoLabs and Continental Automotive Singapore, where EcoLabs is partnering with Continental in a co-innovation program, the EcoLabs Continental Urban Mobility Accelerator, ECUMA program, and proof of concept projects in supporting the startup and technology innovation. Continental Corporations develops pioneering technology and services for sustainable and connected mobility of people and goods. Founded in 1871, the technology company offers safe, efficient, intelligent, and affordable solutions for vehicles, machines, traffic, and transportation. So today's webinar titled From PoC to Impact, Your Cooperation with Continental, presented by Dr. David Woon, Director of Academic Liaison, Continental. David will share insights and ideas on how you can co-create innovations with the newly launched Continental Co-PACE Singapore and its partnership with EcoLabs, and how you might be part of the Continental grand vision of the future in 2030. A brief introduction of the speaker. Dr. David Woon is a self-proclaimed Tony Stark in the making. David prides himself for bringing insane ideas to reality through strategic partnership with startup and research institutions. With the help of Co-PACE, EcoLabs, and more than 14 years of corporate innovation experience in Airbus and Continental, he hopes to build a working Bifrost bridge between startup and the massive Continental group to bring mobility innovation to every mega city in the world. That's very ambition of David to do so. So just a bit of logistic before we start. At the end of the presentation, we will also have an interaction session with David and also Wilson Kum, Associate Director of Co-PACE Singapore. So during this interaction, feel free to enter your question in the Q&A chat box or raise your hand so that we can unmute you to voice your question and interact with the panelists. So now, without further ado, I'd like to pass the session to Dr. David Woon, please. David.
Hi, thanks, Ryan. So very good afternoon, everyone. I'm really very thankful that you are here because, I don't know about you, ever since the circuit breaker and the pandemic, I've been working from home, and I find myself working harder than usual. With things like Zoom, Microsoft Teams, we are able to have back-to-back meetings, and wow, it's been a really crazy half a year having all these back-to-back meetings. And so I really appreciate that you dedicate 1 hour of your time to this webinar. So as you know, or may not know, that Continental is pretty new to the startup scene. We are like the new kid on the block. So I really appreciate EcoLabs for giving us this opportunity to share a lot more about our ambitions and also our plans for the future. So I really hope that this 1 hour would be worthwhile for you, because I'll be sharing very openly about Continental's future plans and how we can work together. We are really very serious, to engage you, whether you are a startup, a local company, a research institution, or you're from university. I am a firm believer of partnerships. That is why it's in my title, right? Director for Academic Liaison. So I really hope to be able to have this opportunity to partner you. So before I go further, let me just quickly share my slides now. And hope you can see and hear. Okay. So I hope you can see my slide now.
Yep, we can see the bee.
Okay, nice. Okay, this is no ordinary bee. Okay, so before we go any further, let's have a bit of fun together. Yeah, nice, cooling, rainy afternoon. So have a look at this picture here. Try to make some sense out of it if you can. And I would like to hear your inputs. I need your help to caption this strange picture. Okay, let's have a bit of fun. So I like you to go to your phone or to access menti.com, key in this code, and caption the cute little bee. You can scan the QR code here if you have your phone with you now. So I'd like to trouble you to do that. Let's have about 2 to 3 minutes. We have some fun on this. I'm going to switch to my browser now. Okay. You can still see the code here. So your task is very simple. Caption this. Use your wildest imagination to do it. Okay, I see if anything is coming in. Okay, nothing yet. So think about it. Why am I sharing this strange photo? Okay, some answers are coming in. Thanks. Keep giving ideas. You can actually caption this any number of times. So you have idea, hungry bee. That's good. Keep those ideas coming in. Very good. Wow, some of you are really very mathematical. Okay. Okay. If you can analyze the equation there, I know I would roughly guess your background. If you, for those of you who can understand that equation, you know what I mean. Okay, good. Busy bee at work. Let's take another maybe a minute more, and I'll then explain why I share this strange picture. Bee position with respect to Earth. Okay, math B's algorithm. Cannot eat if fail math. Wow, very sadistic, but okay. Small person, large problem. Very good. Okay, keep those ideas coming in. Thank you so much. Where is my Oracle marker? Okay. Okay, let's have another maybe 20 more seconds. Okay, thank you so much for all your inputs. I like this one. Be on your way towards life logically. Okay, movement formula of the bee. Pretty close. Pretty close. Okay, I shall stop the sharing ideas now. Maybe I explain now why I showed this. So this bee is a bumblebee. Okay, not the transformer bumblebee. It's a real bumblebee. The interesting thing about the bumblebee is that based on the basic laws of aerodynamics, the bumblebee is not supposed to fly. Why? Because big body, small wings. And the equation that you see here, some aerodynamics equation showing how to calculate the lift generated by the wings. It's not supposed to fly, but who cares? Because the bumblebee doesn't care. It doesn't understand, doesn't know aerodynamics. So it keeps flying. So my hope is that all of you out there who are at this webinar, be like the bumblebee. No, be like the bumblebee. If you are like me in corporate R&D for more than 10 years, you will, wow, you will think of all the obstacles, all the hoops that you jump over before you sign a contract with a big company like Continental, right? Especially when you're a startup. It is no mean task. It is really very difficult to start something in Continental. But please drop that. Be like the bumblebee, do the impossible. And this is my commitment to you. I'm not doing this webinar just to showcase some corporate slides. We are very serious, to really want to work with you, okay? And to really do the impossible, like what the bumblebee is doing. Okay, some of you may have the question in your mind, so why is the bumblebee still flying? So according to more advanced aerodynamic laws, like dynamic stall and stuff like that, it can actually fly now because of its small size. Well, but that is for another webinar, okay? Let's continue with the presentation. Thank you very much for your participation. So this is today's talk, from PoC to impact, your cooperation with Continental. So as we know that there's this term in the startup ecosystem, right? Death by PoC. You've done a lot of PoCs with big companies, and then what next? What happens after that is usually nothing, right? Even if you have a very successful PoC, you will slowly die a natural death because of all the bureaucracy in big companies. But that's not going to happen with Continental today. So I will share with you more how we have big plans on really to partner you all the way from PoC to mass production, to eventually you becoming part of our supply chain. That is our wish and that is our hope. So let's move on with the next slide. So briefly introduce myself first. Who am I? My background is actually in big data analytics. I have a PhD in data mining. At the time, it was known as data mining. Really not sexy at all. Very few of my classmates did a PhD in data mining. But today is big, right? And real sexy, right? Big data analytics. But I assure you, it's the same old stuff. A bunch of algorithms and statistics. So I did that about, say, many years ago. Okay, let's leave it as that. After my graduation in doing my PhD, actually my PhD was done with NTU, the Nanyang Technological University. I proceeded to join A-STAR, which is Singapore's public agency looking after all public research in non-defense area. So the defense areas will be looked after by DSO. So I spent about 2.5 years with A-STAR, managing a lot of research grants, as well as research institutes like SIMTech, Singapore Institute of Manufacturing Technology, and even IHPC Institute for high performance computing. So 2.5 years with A-STAR. So I got to know a lot of people from the research community, a lot of people from the government agencies. So I'm very familiar with EDB and Spring Singapore Today, Enterprise Singapore, with LTA, all these key government agencies, especially in the transportation and mobility sector. After A-STAR, I had a very exciting opportunity to help Airbus start its very first innovation center outside of Europe. Okay, and that was about 14 years ago that I started this innovation center with Airbus, focusing on MRO R&D activities. MRO meaning maintenance, repair, and overhaul activities. Mainly, my task is to see how best to optimize maintenance activities, which is a huge part of our business as well. Airbus sells the plane, right? And after that, there will be huge maintenance activities over a period of even 20 to 30 years. So how to optimize maintenance activities? So at that time, I worked on technologies in the area of IoT, analytics, AR, VR, wireless communications, smart NDT tools, non-destructive testing tools. And that's why I came up with that bumblebee picture that was due to my aviation background. Yeah. So, And 2 years ago, I decided to be more grounded. From the sky, I landed on the ground with Continental. So I belong to Continental's division known as HEAT. Very strange. It stands for Holistic Engineering and Technologies. So in big companies, it is actually known as the CTO organization. So in Continental, we want something more interesting and sexy. So we call ourselves HEAT organization, Holistic Engineering and Technologies. So in this organization, I have the task of partnering universities and also startups, companies, research institutions. So I work with all these institutions to develop technologies together, to partner them. And because CoPace, which is a startup organization of Continental, started its presence in Singapore last month, and hence I'm here to share a little bit more beyond HEAT towards how we can work with you if you're a startup via our organization called CoPace, which I'll share a little bit more later. And I must do my duty to share a little bit more about the Continental Group. So in 2019, we have generated sales in the order of 44 billion euros. And we have a huge population of 240,000 employees. And we have presence in more than 595 sites all over the world in 59 countries. And over here, you will see a segregation of sales by our divisions. Most famous of all is our tires division, right? So if you're driving, please, hopefully you're using Continental tires. I personally, I'm using Continental tires even before I joined Continental. And I would testify that really very safe and reliable. So instead of going into each and individual divisions over here, I would like to share more about our core business and our divisions through this picture here. So what you see here is the latest electric vehicle from Volkswagen, one of our big customers. They're going to roll out the ID3 soon. I think today you can already place orders from next year onwards. So ID3 is Volkswagen's solution for trying to electrify the automotive industry. Now, we all know that EVs, electric vehicles, are pretty popular in many other countries, especially in China, and also maybe in the US with Tesla, right? But they're not considered mainstream yet. Why? Because EVs tend to be more expensive than normal cars, and unless you have a lot of government funding, like maybe in Europe, there's a lot of incentives by the government. EVs are on the more expensive side, and you have another problem of finding charging points, right? You need to be able to charge an EV. Not too big a problem in other countries, but in Singapore, only the pretty rich would have their own bungalows and their own property where they can install charging stations, right? But if you're an ordinary Singaporean living in a government HDB flat, you do not have that luxury. So what to do, and hence it's very important for EV in order to enter mainstream, especially in Singapore or in Asia, to be affordable. And hence that is Volkswagen selling point. The ID3 is affordable. It's able to travel for 300 kilometers with a 30-minute charge. That's pretty good. Can pretty circle Singapore a couple of times before you run out of juice. Yeah, and I'm pretty proud to announce that in ID3, all the main Continental components or divisions are involved in this new platform. So firstly, with Tesco Technologies, so this is our powertrain division. They are looking after the drive control unit of the ID3. We have our autonomous mobility and safety division, and they provide all these systems here, from brakes to the sensors and to even the wheel speed sensors, and the radar, long-range radar. We also have the vehicle networking and information division, providing connectivity within the car and also outside of the car. Also, we have things like the information displays, the seat control unit. When you press a button, you move your seat, and the door control unit. So some of you may not be aware that these are actually components provided by Continental, but they're all white labeled. That's why you do not see Continental brand on it, except on our tires. We also have our rubber divisions, namely ContiTech and Tire division. So we do have, as you see here, all season tires. actually don't need that in Singapore. So you can be sure that if you use Continental tires in Singapore, you are pretty safe, even for the stormy seasons. Our tires can work in winter, no problem at all. We also have this division called Continental. It's also part of the rubber division. It produces rubber hoses, rubber tubings, even conveyor belts. In this case, it provides the plastic lines to thermoregulate the battery. Very important. Air conditioning and heat pumps. So pumps are also produced by Continental. There are actually a lot of pumps within the car itself. In this case, the refrigerant fluid lines for cooling and also for heating. Heating not so much in Singapore. Yeah. So that is in a nutshell the main divisions of Continental. And just for your sensing is that Continental is one of the largest tier one suppliers to all the automakers. There's also Denso, Bosch. So Continental actually can build up to say 80% of the car. Yeah. But we're not going to build a car. Okay, we are happy to remain a tier one supplier. Yeah, even though we can build up to 80% of the car. So zooming in on Singapore, Continental Automotive Singapore, we want to showcase to you what we are producing with our huge team in Singapore. We have an engineering team of 1,100 strong in Singapore. So a lot of these products that you see here are actually designed and developed in Singapore, not manufactured here. We do have manufacturing plants in this region, in Penang, in Malaysia, in the Philippines, yeah, but not in Singapore. But they are actually designed, developed, tested in Singapore. So really proud of it. So if you're driving a Volkswagen Passat, you may find some of your information clusters here, or you're driving the S-Class, the Mercedes S-Class. We are producing a lot of components for the S-Class as well. Even Nissan, many of the regional brands here. So we do things like the instrument clusters, camera products, heads-up displays, and in the area of telematics. Singapore is very strong in that, and all the control modules, the body control modules, you control the windows, the doors, the brakes, central gateway, the seat comfort systems, and all the way to the CVS, the commercial vehicles and services. We have sensors that we produce, fan modules, ignition coils, things that you do not see in a car, produced in Singapore, camera systems, and also futuristic stuff that we're working on under our HEAT organization. I will share a lot more later on in my presentation. So we have things like autonomous driving, new mobility solutions, smart city solutions, connectivity, things like 5G, 6G, or even beyond, 7G, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence is a team that we're building up in Singapore. We also have a very strong cybersecurity team and a team dedicated to apps. So very, very diverse things that we're doing in Singapore. Next, I'll move on to Copace, which is a very special 100% owned subsidiary of Continental. It was created about 3 to 4 years ago because Continental, as a big German company, with a very long history. In fact, next year we're celebrating our 150th anniversary. Continental realizes that if it were to continue to prosper, to do good business, it has to innovate. It has to partner. It has to work with startups to prevent becoming the next Kodak, right, or Nokia. So 3-4 years ago, we realized that we need an organization, a small, dedicated organization to really bridge the gap between our huge business units with startups. It's not so easy because our business units have been trying to work with startups many years ago already, but it's not easy because I would say that they speak different languages or they communicate on different frequency. So we need another organization that really understands both what the startup is thinking about and also what the business units are thinking about, which is namely mass production, big profits, But the startups are thinking about, hey, innovations, quick innovations, But so the two, in a lot of cases, are not really well aligned. That's why we created this organization called Copace. It is known as the startup organization of Continental, having these 3 main pillars as part of the mission. Firstly, incubation of startups. This is more internal facing. This is more incubation of concepts within Continental. So I'm not going to talk about that here. I'm going to focus on the second pillar, which is on cooperation with external startups. We do analysis of all the key priority areas or topics of the business units, the BUs, and also in charge of scouting for external startups. But we also know that we are pretty new to this game, right? And hence we are partnering EcoLabs to really broaden our net to be able to find more startups, not only in Singapore, but regionally and even globally. And Copase also run proof of concepts, PoC projects in a very lean and fast framework. Because if you're going to rely on the parent company, the Continental framework, wow, the startups wouldn't get past the qualification phase. All our suppliers have to go through very strict rules to be qualified as a supplier to Continental. So if a startup were to put through that, most of them would not qualify. So that's where Copase comes in to tell our purchasing colleagues, say, hey, startup is really different creature from the usual suppliers that you encounter. That's why Copase has to come in between the startup and the business divisions. If not, nothing will move. The third part of the pillar, investment, I will not touch on too much of it because it's handled by corporate venture capital. We do have investments in external startups, but pretty rare. And in today's economic climate, because of the pandemic, the automotive industry is actually going through a pretty difficult patch, I would say. So I don't see that happening a lot. So let's not focus on that. Let's focus on corporation, okay? Just to give you a flavor, the Copase team is about a strength of just 20, but small, but very resourceful, and they all come with profound backgrounds. Just to name a few of the big names that they are coming from. So we recruited this team from all these big MNCs, ranging from Airbus, Delphi, Deloitte, even from Google, and also from universities like NTU, even from A-Star. And we also have people from Fraunhofer and MIT as well. So very, very diverse background with a lot of experience in R&D and in engaging startups from all over the world. As you can see, this is where Copase is located today. We have Singapore, Shanghai, Tel Aviv, Berlin, Frankfurt, Regensburg. So this is in Germany, San Jose, Boston, and even in Mexico. So we are all over the world. Okay, before I move on further, I know I've been speaking a lot. I would like to hear from you as well. What are your expectations for this webinar so that I can really tailor my presentation so that to fulfill your expectations? So I'd like to invite you to go to menti.com again, enter this code. Let me switch to my browser now. So what is your main expectation of the webinar? Maybe all these four applies to you, but what is the main one? Okay. So please go to your phone now and give me your inputs. Thank you. Let's take about 2 to 3 minutes for this. Yeah. So thank you. So thanks for your inputs. So please keep your inputs coming in because I really need it so as to be able to tailor my webinar to be more focused on your expectation. So for now, most of you are hoping to understand what Continental is looking for. Very good, because I have a lot of slides on that. Good. Any more inputs? Maybe let's give ourselves another 20 seconds more. Thank you. Ah, finally, someone is here to get new ideas. Yeah. That's good. Okay, thank you very much. I shall now continue. So most of you, as you can see on the screen, would like to know what Continental is looking for. Good. I'll dive straight into that now. Thank you very much for your feedback. So what I've been sharing so far is really on our current products, our current businesses, our current business divisions and units. What you see here on your screen now is a vision. Okay, it's Continental's vision of a mega city in the year 2030, meaning 10 years from now. And this is what we envision, what a smart city would look like. I can even see Singapore here. Right, you have Marina Bay Sands there. So this is our vision of a smart city in the year 2030. And we are all developing technologies, forging partnerships, working with our business divisions to make this a reality and to, provide as many Continental services or components in this grand vision. So over here, you see things like robots moving around, definitely autonomous vehicles. You will see even UAVs flying around, robo-taxis. Also over here, you see smart workspaces, smart offices, smart homes, and many forms of transportation. I would say a multimodal transportation system. You also see a lot of people walking around safely. So safety is paramount, especially when you have robots on legs and on wheels moving around. So really a lot to do, to realize this vision. And Continental knows that we can't realize this on our own, right? And today I would like to share on these 5 main areas, from smart city robots to human-machine interfaces. We need to have new ways of interacting with the drivers or passengers. Definitely automated driving technologies. And underlying all these advanced technologies, we really need cybersecurity to protect all this. We need to be sure that your car, your vehicle is not hackable. Imagine the disaster. Wow. I believe you have seen it in Fast and Furious 6, right? Where cars can be remotely controlled. Because cars today are already very well connected. In the future, they are even more well connected. Not only through the internet, but also with one another. Peer-to-peer connections between different vehicles, even with robots. So, and I also want to touch on this big topic known as ITS, Intelligent Transportation Systems. What is our vision? What is our plan? And how to bring all these things together? So, wow, huge topics, a lot of material to cover, and I see that I have not much time. And hence, what I need to do now is this. I need you to help me prioritize. What are your preferred topics? And I'll focus on those first. So please go to Mentimeter again. Tell me what are your preferred topics, and I'll focus more on them now. 5 topics that we're going to touch on: automated driving, cybersecurity, human-machine interface, intelligent transportation systems, and smart city robotics, because I really need to keep about at least 15 minutes for the fireside chat. So I need to jump in. So tell me your preferred topics right now using Mentimeter. Thank you. It doesn't mean that I won't cover the rest of the topics. It's just that I will go through them faster. I'll start with the more important ones that you prefer, and I'll go into greater detail. Okay, automated driving seems to be, now ITS, and now robotics. Good. We have a diverse audience here. Very good. So please give me your input so that I can be more focused, and I'll share a lot more details on the areas that you prefer to know more. Not many of you are interested in cybersecurity. Good. So I'll not spend too much time on it. Given the interest of time, maybe I'd say let's give ourselves another 30 seconds more to decide. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much for your input. So I will focus more on robotics, ITS, automated driving, followed by HMI, and then cybersecurity. Thank you very much for your feedback. Let me go back to my presentation. So robotics, good. Somehow I read your mind. My next slide is on robotics. In fact, on our last mile delivery robot named Corriere. I don't think so I pronounced this properly. It's supposed to be an Italian name. I wonder whoever came up with that. So I'm going to show you a very short video now showing our vision of how last mile delivery would be like. But feel free to let your imagination run wild. With this robot, I'm sure you can see many other applications. Okay, let's start with this cool video. Okay, hope you enjoyed that short video, which is a vision of how we envision food can be delivered to you. I'm sure your experiences where you get the food late, especially when it's raining, or maybe in the middle of the night, you're hungry, you want some supper, but you go to Grab Food or Grab Food Panda, the charges are so high, and stuff like that. So we hope to be able to make food delivery more convenient, especially during this pandemic period, right? We don't want to go out the house. We want things to be delivered to us. So you may ask, what is so special about Continental's robot? They are Amazon, DHL, all of them have all robots already long time ago. But the unique thing about our robot is its ability to go outdoors. Okay, in fact, as we speak now, we are working with LTA, the Land Transport Authority, on getting a license, on certifying our robot for moving on the sidewalks. This will be really one of the first few robots that will be certified, in fact, by LTA. So watch for a big announcement soon, I hope. So now with this platform here, as you can see, it has many possibilities, not only for delivering food. You could deliver parcels. It's really up to our imagination. We can even use this for security, surveillance, or maybe even to help in the COVID situation. It's a very flexible platform. It's developed in-house by our team in Singapore, meaning that we can easily upgrade it, customize it. It uses AI-based navigation, especially in Singapore, right? Before you know it, suddenly you hear lightning, you see lightning, thunder, you heard the clap of thunder, and it will rain cats and dogs, right? So how do robots navigate in such situation? And these are the things that our guys here are working on. And how do you navigate at night, poor visibility, maybe in daytime when there are a lot of people walking around? And when there are a lot of these robots around, how do you do fleet management? That is very important. Yeah, fleet management. So these are the technologies that we place on board this cute little robot. I will not go through in detail, but we are looking for startups and partners to see how we can make this platform more versatile, use it for many other applications that could maybe eventually become a new product offering of Continental or a new service offering from Continental. So if you have ideas uh, on how to really make big money out of this platform, let us know. Come to us. We are very happy to work with you. And how to, in a sense, commercialize this platform. Today is a prototype. How do we commercialize it? What kind of new business models we need to think about? So these are things that we welcome you to share with us. Okay, so that's robotics. That's a top priority on your list. I will move back to our big vision of the future here, and we'll move on to ITS, Intelligent Transportation Systems. I'm sorry that I will quickly go through the rest because of time constraints. Let's go to ITS now. So we hope to provide end-to-end solutions for transportation in smart cities like Singapore. So ranging from traffic management to congestion, pollution management, driver engagement, emergency vehicle priority. This is very, very critical in congested cities like Singapore. How do we allow these emergency vehicles to get to the destination fast? Citizen services, commercial vehicle safety, very important, especially for truck drivers. A lot of accidents involve them, right? Because they work long hours. How do we prevent accidents? Smart infrastructure, the V2X, to prevent accidents, especially in intersections. Very common in Singapore. You see, that's where most of the accidents take place, right? During intersections, public transportation, and also in future, autonomous vehicles, as I shared, connected vehicles, car sharing, which is already happening in Singapore, but still not mainstream yet. What happens when it becomes mainstream? How do we enable more car sharing? So these are the products that we already have today. Car sharing solutions, traffic data fusion, data processing, even a fleet mobility data platform, connected services. So these are already part of our product offering, and we are actually releasing our APIs for startups yourself, or companies, or even universities to use our APIs to come up with new services. We welcome you to do that with us. And you have any ideas on how to enhance our product offerings that you see over here, feel free to come to us, especially in routing and path inference and route optimization. Today, route optimization, ETA kind of solutions are not that accurate because it doesn't take into consideration many factors. Like, in Singapore, when it rains, we tend to drive a little bit slower, and that causes the ETA to be inaccurate. For example, maybe there's some road works, maybe a tree fell because of the storm. So all these are real-time factors that if you want to have a very accurate ETA for approximation, you really need to factor all these things. You need to make use of AI to be able to factor all this into the ETA. Okay, I will now quickly go through the rest very quickly just to give you a flavor. Let's go to autonomous driving. So this is a vehicle based on the EasyMount EZ10 platform. So EasyMount is a French startup focusing on automated driving. We are actually working with them in Singapore. They have a small presence in Singapore. So in this area, we're interested in algorithms for navigation, perception, localization, and even sensors, hardware. We're also interested in hardware, like sensors that are cheap, higher resolution, better range, more accuracy, more efficiency, resulting in more safety. Okay, so these are the areas that we're looking for. Let me quickly go back. HMI, human machine interface. We're looking to protect, interact, and assist the driver in these following ways. To protect, how do we prevent accidents from happening? This is actually part of the legal requirements for many markets. How do we have a ground truth system to enhance validation? How do we make use of digital avatars, and test data? Interact. How do we interact with the driver using free air gestures? How do we recognize the sentiment of the driver? Whether is he happy, sad, stressed, nervous? How do we personalize the interior based on his likes and dislikes? To assist, how do we check the well-being of the driver? Is he going to have a heart attack soon? Oops. So we better warn him in advance. What are the various health states and emotions of the driver? How do we have advanced virtual assistants that understands the driver, his needs, his emotions at that point in time? How do we use eye tracking to come up with more intelligent displays so as to decrease distraction? We are also into sound. How do we have awesome sound in the car using not only speakers but also every part of the vehicle to actuate as actuators for sound, so that you have more surround feeling and you have less need of speakers. Imagine the car, every single part of the car is part of your speaker system, right? So you have more immersive sound. So we're working on that in Singapore as well. How do we interact with the driver using more intuitive controls, buttons that pop up as and when they're needed? So we call this morphing control services. Okay. Very quickly, let me go on to cybersecurity, the last topic. So I have a video which I will skip, and this is in a nutshell what cybersecurity is all about. We want to protect the car from external threats and also internal. How do we monitor that the ECUs, the TCUs are communicating in a secure fashion? How do we do over-the-air updates in a secure way? How do we monitor the state of the vehicle constantly and in real time, and to be able to respond when there's some intrusion, when there are vulnerabilities, and how do we recover from it? So these are very key topics that we're working on in Singapore. Okay, now in the interest of time, I'm going to our conclusion. So we have EcoLabs, our accelerator partner. Very happy to work with them. And they do have this program called ECUMA, the EcoLabs Continental Urban Mobility Accelerator Program, where you can get funding up to 150K Sing dollars. So this is found on the EcoLabs website. Please visit it to find out more information. And here's the team. And this is Wilson, who will be with me in a fireside chat later on. He's the Associate Director of COPACE APAC, excluding China. Very exciting. Okay, so that's all I have today, everyone. Thank you for your kind attention. Back to you, Ryan. Now, sorry, I took out a lot of time.
Hey, no worries, David.
Really a lot of materials.
Thank you so much for the presentation. It's very insightful. Even myself, I'm learning more about Continental, and congratulations ahead for the 150 years of Continental
Thanks.
Journey. All right, so now as we move towards the interaction session, I would like to invite Mr. Wilson Khoo to join us. A very quick introduction. Mr. Wilson Khoo is the Associate Director of COPACE Singapore, a newly launched entity in Singapore, sorry. So he leads the operations for APAC excluding China region. Engineering by training, Wilson started his career in venture creation area as a venture associate and subsequently as a business consultant before his current role. As a consultant, he advised C-level executive and management team globally on topics in strategy and innovations. Wilson graduated with a bachelor's in mechanical engineering and a master's in system and project management from Nanyang Technological University, Singapore. He is also currently doing a master's in computing at National University of Singapore, a very keen learner, a very good friend of mine as well. So hi Wilson for joining us for today's session. So before we start, before I let Wilson also to give a quick introduction of himself and his role in CoPay Singapore, I would like to remind all attendees that please feel free to key in your question in the Q&A function in Zoom. And if you like to voice your question live, you can also do so by raising your hand, and we will unmute you and let you voice your question shortly. All right. So I've been seeing some question come in already. So Wilson, perhaps we can start with you sharing with us your role in the CoPay Singapore and what are your expectations for the activities in this region.
Right, thank you very much, Ryan, for the introduction. So hi, my name is Wilson. Right, so I lead the activities over here for CoPace for the APEC excluding China region. But being said that, I work very closely with my colleague in China as well as the rest of the regions in Tel Aviv, in US as well as in Europe, very closely to scout for as well as work with the startups to launch them into the region as well as to global scale, right? So in Continental, you might know that a lot of the companies, the large companies over here in the world looks for very late stage startups. That is because the large companies would love to commercialize, right, the technology immediately. But in over here, APEC being a growing location, right, we have good technologies both in the late stage as well as in the very early stage. So I tends to do things a bit differently over here in Singapore, right, with the partnership with EcoLabs as well as with Enterprise Singapore, right. We look for technologies across the value chain, meaning that from the very early stage, right from the ideation and the research institute as well as the universities, all the way down to late stage commercialized products, right? So feel free to reach out to us at any stage you have. So we do have partners like EcoLabs that is able to help to guide you and springboard you into a technology level, a business level where Continental will definitely look at you, right? As well as we do not segregate between the locations, right? As if you are working from Japan, Korea, India, Australia, or anywhere in Southeast Asia, please feel free to reach out to us. We'll be happy to look at your technology. We look in two levels. One on a global level where we are able to use your technology, right, throughout the products that we have on a global scale with our OEMs, right, being Daimler, Mercedes, BMWs, Toyotas, for example, right, or on a local scale, meaning that within the Singapore context or within Southeast Asia context, or is it that your target market is in the APEC region, right? So we are all very open to talk about what type of technology and what's your fit within Continental's portfolio. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much, Wilson. Actually, I'm throughout the presentation and in your sharing, I'm hearing that Continental are being very serious in working with startup. It's not just a buzzwords that we must work with startup and so on. So, having said that, and with the plans to partner with startup from PoC stage all the way to production stage. I have a question to ask to pose to the both of you for our startup audience. What would be the ideal model of working with co-pays? Do they submit applications? Do they draw a note? Or would you pose in challenges or solution that you are looking at in some of your channels? And what kind of ideal startup Copace is looking for? Is ideation stage okay, like so early stage that ideation stage is okay, or the solution should already be in mass production stage? David and Wilson, whoever would like to answer this question.
Wilson, maybe you could answer because I've been speaking a lot already. I'll jump in if needed.
Yeah, right. So in terms of the stage itself, right? Myself is here in Singapore. We are stage agnostic in terms of being early stage or even an idea, maybe too early with just an idea popping out and coming to me, right? But having a, say, a IP, right, that you can make it into something, that is something that we might be interested in, right? Because I'm not just looking at the late stage which we can commercialize in the next 2 years. We're looking at things that we can be up in the pipeline for the next 5 years, the next 10 years. So the best channel to me, right, I will say that we have partners like EcoLabs, right, that you can approach, right, to talk about your idea. These partners, right, we work very closely. We also listen to their advice as well, right, on how to fit this technology into our portfolio as well, because we are so limited, right? We are around 15 packs globally. So we do rely on our partners. Another way of it is that you introduce your startup to us, right, directly, right? I'll be more than happy to look through your technology. Give me a good idea of what is your unique selling point. That is the main thing that I'm looking for. How is your technology better when I place it on the table, as compared to your competitors in the region or as globally, right? That is a very important factor. Is it that you are improving the performance, or are you reducing the cost? So over here in CoPace, I always put it down into four areas that we're looking at, right? The first one being that we do have a pain point, and we constantly work with partners as well as with Enterprise Singapore, for example, to put up pain points, right, to the ecosystem, right? Like we recently did in the Enterprise Singapore's TCC challenge. So having technologies that solve our pain point is number one. Number two is improvement of our portfolio, meaning that our products, right? If you can increase the range of our radar, increase the resolution of radar, or reduce the cost of our radar, for example, this is something that we look at. The third one is expanding our portfolios. So things such as, for example, in new areas of robotics, in new areas of drones that is currently not in our portfolio, but is something within the automotive or say in the mobility space, right? That is upcoming, right? If you have a kit that I can retrofit a car and make it into a flying car, I'm interested in that, right? The next generation technology, the future technology. And last but not least, of course, improving of our processes. If you have a technology that can help us improve our output in terms of production, our quality, shorten the time of R&D, shorten the time of commercialization, this type of processes, this type of technologies, we welcome, right? So thank you.
Right, thank you, Wilson. I'm looking through the Q&A questions, and there are a few questions about funding. So maybe I will just group them collectively, and David and Wilson, you can address on it. So basically, the question is asking how does any person or startup with an idea approach Continental or CoPace for funding, and can whether individual can get funding through CoPace?
So I think if it's at the ideation stage, best go through the Ecuma website. Yeah, that's the best way to do it. And there are also a lot of startup events organized by Enterprise Singapore, and namely Switch, which is going to happen very soon. So these are platforms that if you have an idea, just an idea, those are platforms that you need to go to. Yeah, you can start with those platforms first.
So
So,
for Continental, sorry, I'd
go
like to
ahead.
add to that. For Continental, we generally do not fund R&D unless you have some reason for us, right? That is cutting edge, and we want to work with you to R&D from the start to the end. But normally the startup that come and partner with us, right? The one that has a certain level of technology readiness, right? More than just an idea, where our R&D team will say, okay, let's collaborate together and how to integrate your existing technology, might be an MVP, right, into our product itself. So that is normally the stage. Having said that, investment doesn't come in that easily, right? In Continental, we are a technology-driven company. So we normally look at how the technology fits into our portfolios, and then what is it strategically for us? Is it better to make it you into a supplier, or is it that we should invest into you, right? Because if we invest into you, then it is something that is very strategically important for us to move towards that direction. So it really depends on the strategy, depends really on your standing within the technology space as well. We are our CVC, our corporate venture capital or Continental venture capital, looks mainly on the technological ROI, meaning that what does this technology give us back, instead of just the traditional VCs type of monetary ROI, I would say.
Right. Thank you, David and Wilson. Just for the audience, I will be sharing the ICUMA program website with you all so that you can go in and find out more on the ICUMA program funding and support structure. There's also one question on how many projects has EcoLabs in collaboration with Continental has sponsored so far. So in addressing this, we have in fact, the ICUMA program was launched earlier this year. And because of COVID, there was some delays in the project discussion. So there are several projects in different stage of discussion right now. And we are hopeful that we can start the project as soon as Q1 next year. So going next series of questions is more pertaining on the topic of interest. A question to David, are you also looking for new mobility solution from startup, or only the ones relevant to Continental existing in-house tech and teams presented today? Specifically, one more question we're asking whether interest in EV charging technology is for Continental.
Sure. So yes, we are looking for new mobility solutions. Both are. We're looking for both that are relevant to our existing in-house tech and products, also new mobility solutions. Yeah. So we are interested. Please come to us. Next question. Are you interested in EV charging technologies? For this particular question, I'm afraid no. No, not at this moment, because we have a division called Tesco Technologies. It is looking in this area, but there have been plans to spin it off sometime next year already. So it will be outside of our scope. I have one very interesting question. How does the last mile delivery robot use the lift in the building? Okay, so today our robot still cannot use the lift with the press for us. But we know the technologies and the steps needed to be able to communicate with the lift. It's just that we need to get in touch with the lift manufacturers, and they are usually quite protective of their interfaces. So only in very specific scenarios or use cases will we go to that extent to work with lift manufacturers, because there's so many out there. So if you work with one brand, you cannot work with the other brand. There isn't a standard interface as far as we know. Yeah.
All right. Just a quick note to the attendees. We will take another one or two more questions before we end. I know that the time is already up, but just to conclude, we'll take one or two more questions before we end. For the attendees, if you'd like to voice your question live, please feel free to raise your hand and we will unmute you to voice your question. So David, there seems to be follow-up questions on Eevee, and what is the future of Eevee in your point of view? Perhaps you can shine some light on that.
Sure. I think EVs are the future, right? No, EVs. EAVs, what I say, electric and autonomous vehicles. That will be the future. And it's not a very far future. We see maybe, that's why I say 2030 is the golden number. 2030, we see that more and more pervasive in big cities already. So autonomous, electric, for sure. Nothing stopping them. Yeah, they will come soon.
All right,
yeah,
that's great. So maybe before, maybe let me ask a few more questions while we get the question from the audience. So let's say we have a successful engagement and projects between the startup and co-pays. So what's next? You mentioned that David mentioned in the presentation that it's actually very difficult for a startup to qualify as a Continental supplier. So would this engagement with co-pays qualify them as a Continental supplier, or assistance will be provided to support that? So what's next for the startup?
Yep. So this one, I'll let Wilson answer this question. It's a very long journey, at least 3 to 5 years. So Wilson, over to you.
Yes, I know there's a lot of concern on this. Coming and becoming a part of the automotive ecosystem is tough, I would say. As David mentioned, the lead time, if you are from a startup, right, to an automotive supplier, might take you 2 to 3 years, right? 2 to 3 years at least, right? Maybe 5 years, some even 6 years. Why? Because the barrier of entry into the automotive world is very, very high. But rest assured that it is very something that's very fruitful, because the barrel of acid for us, right, using you as a supplier is also very, very tough. Why? Because we do not easily or switch between suppliers, as a lot of investment will be placed in, such as auditing you or growing you as our supplier, guiding you towards the continental process, as we said, right? That being said, do not fear of coming into this space. Why? Because working with co-pays over here, especially in Singapore, right, we do have colleagues, right, that is in this area of operations, right, to help you build up your capabilities of integrating into continental processes. On top of that, we do give a lot of advices, right, to the startups, or in terms of how to scale up your operations, how to meet the automotive grade, as well as a lot of the requirements that is needed to become part of our supply. We will give you that. We will be able to guide you on what are the steps to take. So be rest assured, the journey is long, but Continental is here with you.
And not only that, the journey is also expensive. But not to fear, a tip for a startup there who wants to be a supplier, there is a lot of funding existing in Enterprise Singapore. They are most happy to help you on this journey to cushion some of the costs. Yeah. So come to us. We'll share with you how to work with Enterprise Singapore. Yeah, to get the necessary funding. So you have help and assistance
And
all the way. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much. So maybe we have a less maybe a bit more shy crowds today, but there's a lot of questions coming in from the Q&A button. So maybe let's take the last question.
Sure.
Do you think Singapore is ready for robots, and what are the challenges that you foresee? So I guess this is also helping the audience to decide which technology direction that they should look into.
I think Singapore is definitely ready for robots, not only from a societal point of view, but also from the governmental point of view. The government is pushing a lot of these technologies out into the real world. They have certain precincts dedicated to it, like the Pongo Digital Park, where we're gonna have a place where we can play around with our robots and our new tech there. So I see a lot of potential, and definitely Singapore is the right place for robotics, for sure. Yeah.
All right.
I would like to add on to that. I think Singapore as a test bedding is a very, very good location. So reach out to us if you are if you are looking for test bed partners and all, right. Talk to Ryan as well. We'll be more than happy to share how we can collaborate on that. Singapore being the island itself, right, it serves a very good environment for test bedding of not just autonomous vehicles, but also robotics on the pathways, because we are so largely connected, right? The government has placed up a lot of these lampposts and all, and we are trying to go into, say, smart lampposts, smart intersections, and this allows a lot of these V2X and 5G technologies to be implemented. And this is the core importance for us, right, to be one of the leading partners, right, into this area. So we are always looking for such technologies, right, that can help to autonomously bring our robot around Singapore, be it technology in mappings, be it technology in connectivity, or technologies, hardware that is able to improve our overall perception in terms of mobilizing the robots itself. These are some of the areas that I feel that is something that we will definitely be interested in.
All right. Thank you, Wilson. David, you want like to?
I just want to add one of the core strengths of our robots is the ability to navigate outdoors. That is not an easy task. Outdoors you find environmental conditions, dynamic objects like humans, pets. It's really a very dynamic environment, and not many robots out there could navigate in such a complicated, dense city like Singapore. And our team in Singapore is particularly working on that. And if you ever see Continental robot, please snap a photo and post on YouTube. You'll see more and more of them very soon. I guarantee you that, because we are really pushing this hard and fast, and the government has been very, very supportive on this. Yeah.
All right, thank you, David and Wilson, and for today's sessions. It's really very insightful sharing, and I'm sure all the audience actually learned so much about Continental and Copay Singapore. So thank you again for everyone to attend today's sessions. As we come to the end of today's webinar session, I would really like to give a round of virtual applause to the presenters and everyone who participated in this webinar. So for the attendees, at the end of this webinar, there will be a survey for you to give feedback so that we can continue to provide very high quality webinar content speakers for you in future. So please kindly also follow us on the EcoLabs linking page and join us on 15th December, 4 p.m. for our next webinar, Entry Preparations and Product Localization for Chinese Market, presented with by LVS. So thank you again for David and Wilson for joining us. So for audience who are interested to find out more about how do we work with Continental and so on, you can click on the website on the Ecoma website and the chat function. If not, you can also email me directly at Ryan, jin@ntu.edu.sg. We will send out the more information through email communication. So meanwhile, thank you so much. So do stay at home and be safe and healthy in this COVID situations. And thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Thank you.